Hello and welcome back for segment 2 of the Tachiai Nagoya podcast. I've got with me blog creator Andy. Say hello.
Hey.
And typically our man in foreign lands, Josh, who's joining us once again from the United States. Say howdy.
Howdy.
Howdy indeed. So now we're in segment 2 and it's time to talk about the upcoming tournament. We are 1 week away from the start of festivities in the sweatbox that is Dolphins Arena. And we've got to say it, the return of Hakuho. He's back. Anytime he mounts the doyo, I'd say he's in it to win it. If he's even got 50% power on that right knee, if the reconstruction more or less worked, even for a short time, he is going to throw so many monkey wrenches into so many people's tournaments. And frankly, I can't wait. So I see that you've actually got the boss laughing over your head, Josh. Give us what you think a preview of Hakuho's Nagoya tournament might be like.
Sure. Yeah, well, we don't know what condition he's actually in. He's had a lot of time to rehab. Hopefully that's got him in some kind of shape to be competitive for this tournament. But at the end of the day, as has always been the case with Hakuho since he made his debut at the rank of Yokozuna and probably some time before, he's the favorite for just about every match that he's going to enter. The only exceptions to that I can think of is when he was fighting Asashoryu, right? Where it's more of a...
Or the occasional Harumafuji match.
Right, the occasional... But even then, he was expected to...
Well, and Kisano Sato, of course, who seemed to be his kryptonite.
They had a good rivalry. But he's always the one who's the favorite all the time because he's the Yokozuna. He's in many people's eyes, I think all of ours, the greatest of our time, certainly of our lifetime. So, we always used to say when there was this will he, won't he appear, for Hakuho in the past, Hakuho at 70% or Hakuho at 60% is always going to be better than most people's 100%.
Yep.
We've seen the last few times that he has shown up, if he's not quite right, it makes it a little bit more competitive for some of these other guys, these Dai shows, these Hokuto Fuji kind of characters. But he's still the favorite for every single match. I'd put him as the favorite up against Terunofuji if and when the two of them come together. So
please. Yeah, it's been so long since those two faced off. Oh my goodness.
That's the thing, but that's the thing, Bruce. I mean, that's the gift of this whole thing, and you'll have to forgive me for not being too, Hakuho's going to beat this guy and he's not going to beat that guy. The fact that Hakuho and Terunofuji could be meeting in the Musubi no Ichiban on Senshiraku, that is the exciting thing about this whole tournament.
Oh, please.
And whatever happens in between, is what it's all about.
Great sumo cat of the Kokugi-kan, let it be so.
Yes.
And I think I'll go a little bit farther than Josh did. I think for at least 6 months after he retires, he's still the favorite to win every match that he shows up for.
Mm-hmm.
Just because
exactly,
he's sort of like the Chuck Norris of sumo. All right, Andy, I know you're champing at the bit to tell us what you think Hakuho's tournament's going to be like. Give us a breakdown.
Oh, I mean, if his knees are better than Terunofuji's, then he is obviously the favorite. I mean, and that's a pretty low bar. But I mean, the guy is a savant when it comes to throwing people. He's going to be the favorite. It's just we're not sure if he's going to actually last a full 15 days. I am really, really hoping that he lasts another 45 days.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's got another 3 tournaments in him for this year, that'll be pretty exciting. We'll be able to see more Dohyo Iri, and we'll have some time to hopefully get another Yokozuna in place before he retires. But I'm pretty excited just to see him back, even if we do get just the first week of Dohyo Iri. But I was going back through his record. He hasn't had fewer than 10 wins in something like 12 years. It's absurd. He will, even if he goes 15 days and has 7 losses somehow, and he finishes 8-7, I'm going to be super, super happy. I know that there will be people howling if he doesn't get the 10, but he's gotten 10 for so long that I would just be happy to see him.
Yep, just to see him fight. So
yeah, just to see him there.
So I cast a hairy eyeball at the Banzuke, and who is peeking out at Majishiro 1 East? None other than Endo. And I think we remember what happened the last time those two tangled. And the time before, and the time before. Oh, great sumo cat of the Kokugi-kan. In the first week, might we see Hakuho versus Endo? And might there be a few dozen scores to settle? Let it be so. Let it be so. All right, so...
Might there be some tongue wagging, too?
There may be blood indeed. So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, it's not even quite overshadowed, but I mean, it's certainly the Hakuho questions there, but it's the fight for the rope, and that's Terunofuji versus Takakeisho. And when I talk about throwing a spanner into the gears of somebody's tournament, it's those two. Because if Hakuho's back and if he's Genki, well, that's just going to be a real shit show, isn't it? But, you know, there are some rabid sumo fans who say, hey, well, you know, yushos and jun yushos, man, either one of those guys or maybe even both of them might end up with the rope coming out of Nagoya.
Yeah, Rudy.
It's right. Terunofuji Mania is going to come and get you. I'm sorry. Terunofuji's been putting up Yokozuna sumo. So his last finishes were 12, 12, 11, 13. He had an 8 where he was injured and went away. 13. He's had 3 yushos in his run since he returned to the top division. The guy is turning in Yokozuna numbers. Takakeisho may be a step behind. Same period, he's had 2 yusho, 5 jun yusho, a 12, a 10, a 2 where he dropped out because he was hurt, a 13 and a 12. So both of these guys are definitely, you know, they're looking like they're going to be the next thing. But now we have this construct where if Hakuho's Genki, well, they have to tear down the old guard in order to bring out the new. Josh, do you think either one of those guys are going to end up with some additional haberdashery, shall we say, at the end of this one?
Maybe. It's the tale as old as time, right? The fact that in order for you to ascend to that rank, you must tear down the old guard. Yeah, I don't think anybody really expects Hakuho to win the yusho. I mean, it would be what an incredible story it would be if he did, but it automatically makes the 2 guys behind him the top candidates for him. It's really hard to say that Terunofuji's going to do it for what would be a 3rd time in a row. Even in his condition, he did look a little vulnerable towards the back end of that tournament. Yeah. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, but it doesn't feel right, but I kind of want to make Takakeisho kind of the favorite for this, which would, depending on how other things shake out, create a really interesting scenario. If he wins it, possibly nobody becomes the Yokozuna, or possibly he does, or maybe still both of them, depending how Terunofuji does. So, that's probably the least clean of all of the scenarios. And as sumo has tended to show us, that means it's probably the most likely thing to happen. I think to your point, Bruce, when you talk about, all these permutations, and even a few minutes ago when you invoked the Hakuho Endo thing, this first couple of days, and when they make the Torikumi announcement for the first couple of days, and the matchups and who's fighting each other, that for me is going to be the most interesting in some time, because for those people who follow the site and the good work that our friend LK Sumo does, we have a pretty good idea of like what the schedules are going to look like in the second week of a tournament. But it's that first week when you start seeing these matchups and start seeing the yusho race take shape. It's going to be really exciting to see where these guys net out of all that.
Andy, all right. So do you think either one of these guys may end up with a rope?
I'm not jinxing anything on this one, because the thing is, I would love for both of them to. It would be very exciting. We need some new champions. I mean, it's been so long, and it has really been a very long time since we had somebody with the stability of a Kisena Sato or a Hakuho, and we have not seen that with Shodai. We have not seen that with Asanoyama. Terunofuji, we're all worried about his knee, and Takakeisho, I'm still not convinced that such a one-dimensional wrestler can be a Yokozuna. But you add on to that the absolute just, I don't know, battle royale of a Banzuke that we've got right there.
Yep.
Ichinojo is back up in there. Daie Sho, he had won. Meisei Wakatakakage, like Takano Sho, and then my favorite spanner to throw into the works of anybody's yusho run is Hokuto Fuji. It's like the only person up there who is not going to pose a challenge is probably Koto Eko.
Hokuto Fuji, owner of the most powerful makikoshi in all of sumo. Okay, so let's go from the lofty heights of Mount Olympus, where the gods will be battling it out, down to the lowest rung on the Banzuke, and none other than longtime person of interest Ichiyamamoto shows up at 17 East in a bit of a surprise. I mean, he was Juryo 8 East, right? So he's in the middle of the Juryo pack. He had a 10-5, which is respectable. I had no idea they would elevate him. So he's a stablemate of Shohozan, who's of course fading out, unfortunately, but I mean, a long-time brawler. Josh, Ichiyamamoto, he's in the top division. This is going to be kind of cool, won't it?
Yeah, it was a real surprise. I don't, as you say, I don't think a lot of people had Ichiyamamoto in the top division on their Banzuke predictions. He's somewhat notable. He could be the final product of his Shisho, his stable master, to reach the top divisions. That guy's going to retire in January, former Wakashimazu. He's the first guy from Nishino Sekibeya, or its predecessor, to reach the top division since, as you say, Shohozan did a decade ago. From a sumo standpoint, he is incredibly similar to Abi. So if you like Abi, you're going to like this guy. In fact, I don't know personally if there are two Sekitori at the moment who have styles that are quite so similar, that sort of stand up, thrusting at the neck going on, kind of mobile. I was going to say maybe Hoshoryu and somebody else, but I don't want to get yelled at by the like growing and weird cult of Hoshoryu fans if I compare him to anybody. So it'll be back to the topic. It'll be interesting to see if Ichiyamamoto can evolve his style where Abi really has not, but he's not quite as gangly as Abi. As you say, you've been following him for a long time. He joined out of university. Right now, I think his ceiling is probably like a middle of the pack Maegashira at best, unless he does add a little more. He's going to be 28 this year, even though he hasn't been in professional sumo for that long as a college guy. So I don't know how much more room for development he has, but as I say, he's never been overmatched at Juryo level. He's down there for 4 tournaments, all very strong Makekoshi plus an injured tournament. He got a very generous promotion. He could be overmatched here, but we'll see. So,
Andy, long time subject of our ones to watch, Ichiyamamoto now in the top division. Thoughts about him?
I am just as surprised as y'all. I had Yutakayama penned into that final slot, and so I was. Well, this whole Banzuke was just a giant mess. I did not predict pretty much any of it, especially like the fact that I just totally messed up the bottom 5 ranks or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, Ichiyamamoto is, like Josh said, he's an Abi clone. It'll be exciting. It's kind of interesting that they're not in Juryo together. Yeah. I think that would be very fascinating to see both of them against each other.
Wait for Aki.
Well, but that's the thing. I think that we probably will end up seeing them in Aki because Ichiyamamoto probably head back down, and Abi will be on his way back up, and so they'll probably meet there at the top of Juryo. But I'm not as very optimistic about Ichiyamamoto, his staying power in Makuuchi. But the thing is, there are a lot of I don't know, questionable Makuuchi guys down there at the bottom, who've been just kind of seesawing or teeter-tottering between Juryo and Makuuchi. So he may surprise and end up being another Koto Echo. I mean,
one can only hope.
Shock me.
So I'm going to pull an audible here because we have a little bit of extra time, because I want to bring up one of my favorites who has returned to the top division. That's none other than Ura. Yep. Welcome back, Ura. And this is not the Ura of 3 years ago. He has really tuned up his sumo. He has changed his body quite a bit. I mean, I think the man can bench press one of those like micro trucks now. The guy is incredibly strong now, and I'm very curious to see how long he can last, because he's on borrowed time with that knee of his. Josh, any quick hits on Ura?
I think just what you said. He's in a very, very different shape, but it actually hasn't changed his ability to win via crazy techniques, or rare techniques. We've seen a bunch of those even down in Juryo in the last couple tournaments. And, I think a lot of people were very cautious because, he attempted a comeback a couple years ago and it didn't work out, and he had to drop back all the way down to Jonidan, 5th division. And I saw him. That was actually the last tournament I think that I was able to go to, that any of us are able to go to. Well, no, not you. You went to Hatsu last year. The last one that I went to was Kyushu 2019, and I actually saw Ura back in the lower divisions. And fans love him.
Oh yeah,
continue to love him. He has been consistently supported throughout this entire time that he's been sort of out of the spotlight, if you like. And I think for him to be able to come back and get, all the bells and whistles and the adulation and the crowd and the TV time and everything that comes from being an exciting Rikishi and the person that everyone fell in love with in the top division, I hope it's a successful comeback for him. And, frankly, 7-8, 8-7 would be just that. If he does more, then wow.
All right, Andy, do you think that Ura can hit and stick in the top division this time?
As long as he doesn't fight Hoshoryu. I mean, with Hoshoryu up in the up higher in the Maegashira.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, Hoshoryu goes for those trips, and we saw with Ura against Ura's scariest moment over the last year or so was that bout with Enho. And so when you've got him up against smaller guys that are also having to, I guess, wrestle outside of the box, that's when he seems to be a bit more challenged. I mean, Harumafuji was actually, I think, the one who sent him back down, who injured him, because with the smaller wrestlers, there's a lot more of the tripping, and I think that's where he'll be the most danger of re-injuring his knees.
Yep.
And so this tournament, I think it'll be very interesting to see him up against guys like Kaisei, Kagayaki, Chiyomaru. He's going to be 10-5.
Oh, you think so? That'll be great. All right, so let's end Rikishi talk there, and it's time for us to go into our world famous, always regrettable predictions. And I think this time we're going to start with Andy. Andy, do you want to make any predictions about the outcome of Nagoya? Anything that you know for a fact you will regret maybe even 1 week from today?
Mitakeumi yusho.
Oh my goodness. So he's third.
Yes.
So because the hometown crowd is going to pull him over the line?
Yes, and he's, I think, going to start his Ozeki run with this tournament.
Oh, wow.
Because there's just so much flux up above him, and yet he's still a very solid wrestler. He's been in Sanyaku for like 3 years, except for like 1 or 2 tournaments where he would have a bad tournament. He's been one of the most consistent wrestlers, and he's not taken it up another gear. I think that with, I don't know, all of the drama not on, nowhere near him, he is going to be able to take it up another gear, and I'm eager to see him punch his third ticket, I guess.
Wow. Okay, Josh, your turn. Anything you figure you'd like to predict that you might regret sooner rather than later?
The craziest thing I've ever said on this podcast
is that Andy was right.
Yes, that I agree with Andy. I don't necessarily think that Takayumi is going to win the yusho, but I do think that he will put together a strong enough performance in this tournament to bring the Ozeki question, if you like, back into the conversation. We're going to lose Asanoyama from the rank in the next tournament. We're going to lose a Yokozuna before long. And as Andy said earlier, I don't know if it was this podcast or the one that we did earlier today, I don't think a lot of us really believe that Shodai is very long for the rank. So Takayumi loves the Nagoya Basho. It's where he won his first yusho. He's always been a disruptor there. I think he ended another Hakuho win streak there. He loves being disruptive to Hakuho. So I think he will have a very good tournament and possibly set himself up for the Ozeki promotion next time out. I do not think that Takayasu is going to do whatever you think might be required. I know there's been a lot of debate over that for him to become an Ozeki again. I don't think that's going to happen. And I think as far as the yusho is concerned, as I said earlier, I think Taka Keisho is going to be very much in that conversation one way or the other. Maybe we'll see a tadpole playoff again.
Ooh. I always love those. Okay, so I guess it's my turn. And it's not necessarily... well, I hope I regret some of this. I think that Hakuho retires this month, or in July. I think that his knee is not nearly good enough to conduct Yokozuna Sumo. He's already a foot and a half into the Oyokata realm, and I'm sure that he has made preparations in case this outcome takes place. And he goes with dignity and style, which is befitting a Yokozuna. And I believe that we will see the fourth yusho for Terunofuji, and he will get the rope. And we will get to see him hoist multiple fish next month, and that we will get our new Yokozuna, and they may actually decide to mint two of them at the same time. Not that I think that that's a good idea or it should happen, but I don't know, just a feeling. And with that, I think we're going to say good evening and goodbye. Thank you very much for joining us for our Nagoya podcast. We hope you enjoy the tournament. We know we sure will. And remember, for Sumo, it's Tachiai.